Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Pro Wrestling Report. Damian Nelson and the man they call Meathead, obviously, but more importantly, here with us from TNA Wrestling is the one and only, the man behind TNA Wrestling, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, welcome to our studios here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You're taking the time out of your busy schedule. Busier, of course, because of the big Bound for Glory pay-per-view event coming up to Hoffman Estates, Illinois, just in 1 week's time. Let's talk about the journey. TNA Wrestling, as we've heard, more so than we had before over the last few weeks on Impact, you behind that founding of that organization. How does it feel to finally be at this point now where you've got this major pay-per-view event, your big-time event of the year, coming to the Chicago area?
Well, over the last few weeks, just like you mentioned, and specifically over the last few days, I've done a lot of media, Chicago, here in Milwaukee, and I've discussed all those things. It was over 6 years ago when the dream started. I had a dream in my head, and everybody said I was literally nuts. I was crazy for trying to start up a wrestling organization from scratch. But here we are 6 years later, and we've got a video game out that shipped 750,000 units. We've got a tour coming up in January over in the UK. We've got 2 shows sold out over there, and the other ones are on their way. We've got October 23rd, we've got a live Spike special out in Las Vegas, and we're sort of throwing a party because that's the night we're going to go HD. And I'm sure we're going to talk about all these things if you like in detail, but, we just signed Mick Foley, and that speaks volumes for the organization, a guy of his stature, a guy of his history, a guy of his credibility, who wants to be a part of TNA is really special. And, our roster, has come such a long way in 6 years. Kurt Angle, Sting, Booker T, Christian Cage, but then you've also got on the flip side, and just the last interview I did, they were talking about just the growth and the foundation that we're building here of our own unique stars, AJ Styles, Abyss, Samoa Joe, Motor City Machine Guns. The list goes on and on. So it's very rewarding. It is our World Series. I don't want to talk too much baseball around these parts. There's enough of that going on. But it is. It's our Super Bowl, and next Sunday, and right down there at the Sears Center, it's going to culminate for us.
Bound for Glory, this is the 4th installment of it, and going back to the beginnings of TNA, it was 2002, Nashville, Tennessee, I believe it was.
Huntsville was our first show.
Huntsville, all right. And TNA, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, affiliated with the NWA at the time, came on board with the weekly pay-per-view shows. Very innovative. A lot of people said it wouldn't work, as you said, but it clearly has worked. Now you see the transition to, I believe it was the Fox Sports Network for a while, then on to Spike TV, where it is Spike TV's highest-rated program is TNA Impact. A lot of people, Jeff, compare TNA to WWE right now, because ever since the days of wrestling wars, there always has to be a wrestling war. What do you make of that comparison? Obviously, you talked about the younger talent, which TNA does a great job focusing on. But what do you make of that comparison? What are the big differences between the two organizations right now?
Well, to me, sports entertainment and professional wrestling are almost exactly the same. But if you ask me, we're professional wrestling and they are sports entertainment. And that goes with, there's several aspects to that. At the end of the day, what our guys can do in the middle of the ring is truly the barometer that everyone's measured upon. Certain guys have different personalities. There's certain aspects of our organization that are different. Certainly, they're much bigger. They've got a 40-year history, 40-year plus history. It's a third-generation organization. So just the volume and the depth and the amount of years that they've been around, there is no comparison. That's safe, and I don't mind saying that at all. But when you tune into our show on our show on Thursday nights and their show on Monday nights, I challenge the fan out there. I'll let you decide. You tell me. But I can say without a shadow of a doubt, we put on the more compelling, better programming week in, week out.
And we have been accused, as you see Meathead wearing the shirt that says he's a mark, we have been accused of being marks. We were at the first live Impact the week of WrestleMania down in Orlando. I was just in the Impact Zone about a week ago as well. And I have said, and I firmly believe that the live TNA wrestling event experience is leagues beyond anything WWE does or has done, because TNA has a true appreciation for the fans. And WWE takes it, in my opinion, advantage of their fans and really just does not appreciate the fact that people are not only investing their time, but their money to come see a show. That is what I get out of TNA. You go to the Impact Zone, you go to a live TNA event, you just have fun. And it seems as if TNA is able to maintain that focus even through its growth with the fans and appreciating who made TNA what it is.
Without a doubt. I mean, next Saturday we're doing a fan interaction, and that's we do it 2 or 3 times a year, but that's really not accurate. Every one of our shows, when we take it on the road, we have an autograph session after every show. We have, whether it be AJ Styles or Samoa Joe or Kurt Angle's done it from time to time, Booker T's done. One of the top stars will get up in the ring and give the fans a chance to step up in the ring, hold the belt, whatever you like, get in there, but pose with one of our superstars, and we do the autograph session. But everything we do, we realize, and Toby Keith was on our first show, and he's a mega country music star. People may be familiar with him, maybe not. But the one thing he told me is that he earned his fan base one fan at a time, and that really resonated with me. Being that I'm a third generation in the wrestling industry, I know the good times and the lean times, and the only difference between good times and bad times are the fans, the amount of fans. And so you truly have to appreciate that. You have to know that, and we don't take that for granted, and we never will. It's something that we focus on. Take great feedback from the different fan bases around the world, and we put that to use.
Dual duty. You've been off the air for a couple of years in TNA, now back on into a prominent role on air, if you will.
Yes. You're talking way too much.
I know. Hey, it's sometimes we can't get Damon to slow down.
He's intimidated by you. And actually, why don't you tell him what you used to call me back in the days when Jeff was in WCW?
Slap nuts.
Well, actually, there's kind of, let's go along those lines. Jeff, now you have gained my respect over the many, many years that we watched your wrestling, only because a guy like you has done their job. And I don't know how you guys feel about it and how you feel about it, but if you're the heel, if you're the bad guy, and I take the time to yell out, "Hey, Jarrett, you suck." You every time have taken the time to turn, look, point at me, and have a different reaction. I felt like I did my job, and you did your job, and that just made the show so much more enjoyable. And you had a different reaction. I'll be vulgar, but,
And then you got kicked out of the arena.
Quite possibly.
6 years this journey has been going on. I would imagine that it would have been difficult to answer this question 5 years ago, but 5 years from now, where do you see TNA? Where would you like to see TNA wrestling 5 years from this Bound for Glory?
Well, the first 5 to 6 years have been extremely tough. The next 5 to 6 years are going to be tough in different aspects, because we're going to really have to focus and concentrate on where we want to grow the business. When you're first starting out, everything can grow. But we've got I've worked for the other organizations and been gone away from home, and it's a vicious cycle. You can get a guy away from home 25 days a month. They ended up having no life, and then that's a one-way street. You spiral out of control, and so we're going to have to be careful with the talent where they're not overworked. We're also going to have to be careful on where do we run our live events? Do we keep it global? Which to me, that's where the world's going. That it's going to afford us to grow, and each event really is going to be special. We won't be coming to Chicago or Milwaukee 4 or 5 times a year. We'll be maybe coming once or twice. It'll make it that much more special. So we're going to have to be smart about how we tackle the different business aspects, from the DVD market, which is, who would have thought DVDs would have been where they're at today, not just in wrestling, but in all forms of entertainment. You can get a DVD on everything, on anything. But now it's moving over into the iTunes and the YouTubes of the world, and different way to disseminate information and marketing tools. The video game, where's that going to take us? I mean, more people are getting in touch with the brand, the product of TNA via the video game than who would have dreamed of that when we started the organization. So we got to be smart.
Speaking of being smart, a lot of people have knocked TNA for the acquisitions. You look at a Christian Cage, a Kurt Angle, a Booker T, a Sting, saying, well, what did it really do? What is the goal of the big names coming into TNA? You talked about the younger talent earlier on. We've got, and not that the younger talent aren't the big names, but as far as those recognizable names for fans who may not be aware of TNA's product or may not have been aware of TNA's product, what is the strategy behind that?
Well, it's, to me, and when I'm asked that question, it's real simple, just because I think, for the fact I take my knowledge of the business for granted sometimes, because I've been in it so long. You've got to have a spectacular roster, a spectacular card. You've got to have some veterans that maybe are past their twilight, maybe in their twilight, maybe past their prime. You've got to have your primetime players. You got to have your up and comers, and then you essentially got to have some no-namers that are in the mix. But all of that together makes for a great roster. It makes the stars bigger. Everything's relative in in this business. That to have a real big star, you've got to have some little bitty stars, and you can only be so much good if there's so much evil on the other side. So you really got to look at it from that aspect. And every step of the way, we've acquired, from going back to 3D to Booker T to Christian Cage, all the names you named. Each one has come in and served a different purpose. Some of them have taught the younger guys. Some of them have brought their star appeal. Kurt Angle, to me, has done a little bit of everything. He's magnificent, probably, in my opinion. He's definitely one of the top 5 guys who's ever been in this business, the things that he can do in and out of the ring. But certain guys have brought different aspects to our organization. But what is so unique about that is, and this is the wonderful world of professional wrestling, that line of fantasy and realism, that now we've got a group of veterans, and then you've got some up-and-comers, and TNA is really coming to the forefront. There's a natural animosity that is actually going on, and I can see both sides of it, because the guys that have in their twilight, you damn right, they've earned the spot to act the way they want to and carry themselves. But the younger guys, they're out there busting their butt night in, night out, learning the trade, doing everything they can. If they weren't hungry, I wouldn't want them on the roster. So it's a natural division. At this point, I tend to believe that the way I've looked at things and sat back for the last year and a half, 2 years, AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, they don't know how to express themselves, but they're more in the right than the other guys.
And it's amazing that you guys have been able to actually mix in your established names and your younger guys. And it's not a consistent thing that you're doing over and over and over, where it's just this group versus this group, kind of like a WCW did, kind of like you do see with a WWE, where you may mix up AJ. You had Consequences Creed, battling out with the bigger guys. You've had, guys like Sheik Abdul-Bashir battling out with the bigger guys, and you're able to mix that back and forth. Do the guys really appreciate that they get their shot in the spot, their shot on the main, their shot up on the card?
That's the flip side to that. Some guys do appreciate it, some guys don't. I mean, I can tell you the machine guns, they're punks, but they're very talented punks. So it's a mixture there.
Bound for Glory, coming up next Sunday, October 12th. Tickets are available at SearCenter.com. This is really the big event of the year for TNA Wrestling. It's almost like, if there's one event, if you're a new fan out there and you haven't tried it, this is the one to try. And TNA has, the reputation, whether there's a war or not, of being the organization that consistently delivers on pay-per-view. You're going to get three solid hours worth. You're going to have great professional wrestling. And that's what a lot of...
Amazing opening match. Every year, Bound for Glory has had that amazing opening match where you can't believe that, Hernandez is flying over the top of the rope. I mean, those guys deliver every single match.
So what do you say to the fans out there in closing as we lead into Bound for Glory coming up on October the 12th?
You just said it all. It's a can't miss. It's we try to make every month a can't miss event. In reality, that's really tough to do. But this is the one that it's a very natural. In Chicago, the fans, if you guys know, Chicago's
hot.
It's a great wrestling town. Sting against Samoa Joe, they've never faced each other in these kind of circumstances. That's going to be I'm honestly, and I'm probably the biggest wrestling fan in the world, I'm really excited to see that match. Me and Kurt, there is so much going on that's behind the camera and in front of the camera that there's serious issues and serious prides that at stake, and throw Mick Foley in that mix. It's going to be very unique. But then you've got the other aspects, the Monsters Ball, and we've got Mongo McMichael, who we just cleaned up that details with him. He's going to be the special referee of the Monsters Ball, and so he's
he bringing Pepe?
No, you never know. You never know. But we've got the Steel Asylum, which is sort of an X division. We've got the knockouts, and we hadn't really talked about that, but that's another thing that sets us apart.
The best female professional wrestling in the world today.
So it's got, from top to bottom, this card is off the charts.
Well, Jeff Jarrett, thank you so much for spending time with us here in our studios here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Bound for Glory, Sunday, October 12th at the Sears Center, Hoffman Estates, Illinois. SearsCenter.com. For the man they call Meathead, this is Damian Nelson of the Pro Wrestling Report.